Hello and welcome back to the Overdue Sports Show, episode 8 of the Overdue Sports Show. I'm your host, Jake Sawinski, accompanied as always by Will Massa. How we doing, Will?
Another day, still March, getting ready for more college hoops action. We are a little bit delayed on the Missouri Valley, which we're going to dive into because they didn't have odds when we did this on Monday, even though the tournament started yesterday. I found that to be odd. I believe they were playing that night, I think is the reason. But we've got a short list of conferences because everybody else is still playing through the weekend. So we'll be back on Monday and Tuesday of next week and breaking down the remainder of the conferences. One of our shows will be the Power 5, Big East. Yes, we count it as a Power 5 in basketball. And then we'll be doing the remainder of the mid-majors, some of which very exciting, like the Big West and the Mountain West, and some not so much like the MEAC and the SWAC. But we're going to cover it all because that's just what we do around here.
Exactly. As Will said, we've got 4 conferences to run through. The Missouri Valley technically already started, but all of the big boys are still lively in that tournament. So I think it might be a little bit of an odd shift, but I don't think you're going to lose out a ton on if you like one of those teams. You might still be able to nab them. We've got the American East, the SoCon, and everyone's favorite, the Southland. But before we get into that, we've got a little bit of in-show news. Will, do you have an announcement you'd like to make regarding some writing?
Yeah, if you didn't see it on Twitter yet, I did take a spot with Just Baseball, which I'm extremely excited about. Very, very stoked to jump in with them starting next week, more than likely. And I'm going to be covering college baseball for them. So all of my college baseball writing, I still always post it everywhere, but now it's just going to be under the Just Baseball umbrella. So very cool news for me personally. I'm really stoked about that. And I mean, what's better than covering college baseball in my brain? Not much. So to have it on a very large platform is going to be really cool.
Congratulations, of course. I can't think
Thank
of
you.
anyone who likes college baseball any more than you. So be sure to show Will some love in his new endeavor, writing in another place for college baseball. It's like he's not doing enough of that already. But enough of the rub and tugs. Let's get down to brass tacks. Missouri Valley, what are you seeing in this conference?
Man, I'm such a Drake guy, and I was last year, and they got caught in that weird game against Miami. And I said it last year too. I said if this team beats Miami, they're gonna go on a run. And they were up big in that game. Miami came storming back. This was before the Jim Larinaga absolute meltdown, and Miami just turned into piss. I don't really know what happened there, but
Yeah, I don't think that
it
was
was a
2
really good.
years ago though.
Oh, that was 2 years ago. Was it really?
I
Holy cow.
believe so. Yeah, you were on a
Wow.
roll. I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that one
No,
was 2 years
I
ago.
really thought that was that feels like wow.
No,
Either
I
way,
think Drake made the tournament regardless. But I
yeah.
think the instance you're talking about, it was
Was
two
that really
years
2 years
ago.
ago? It
Yeah, I
was two
think.
years ago because that was the
Yeah,
VCU year too. It was the same
yeah.
year.
You're not
Um,
like what you're saying isn't wrong though, because like they had a lot to build on.
yeah, this is a really good team again in my book. And coming into the tournament, they were minus 110 to win the tournament in what is a good conference. Actually, this is my favorite conference to bet. This and the Mountain West tend to be my best betting conferences. I tend to have a pretty good feel in this conference. Drake is really damn good. They do play that kind of yucky style. They play really slow, but they don't miss their opportunities. Like they're not going to run up and down the court like Alabama does. They're one of the slowest in pace in all of college basketball, but they're really good. This is a really good team. What I don't know is, are they going to do it again? I mean, these futures with minus odds on the 1 seed, it's so hard to be like who's going to beat them. Bradley isn't the same team. They're the 2 seed. This conference is typically Bradley and Drake, and those games tend to be really good. Wasn't really the case this year. Drake kind of handled them in the regular season. There is a team that I do like down the list, and it's Illinois State. They were 15-1 coming in. They're frisky. They were frisky last year. I don't know if the roster, how much it's the same as last year, but they've had some dudes in the past, and they don't have the favorable draw, but they have a good hedge draw, if that makes sense. So they won against Missouri State yesterday. They'll take on Belmont today, and if all goes as planned, they would play Drake in the semifinals. So that would be a good hedge spot. I assume that they're probably closer in the 10-1 range now with some teams getting knocked out. But this still might be worth a look. I actually think they're going to compete with Drake. I know Drake only lost one game in conference play this year, and it was to Bradley. But the game that they won against Bradley, they handled. I still think it's Drake. I think Drake is a really, really good mid-major this year.
Yeah, this conference is a little bit interesting to me because, like you said, Drake is kind of the clear favorite in the conference based on like the way the regular season played out in conference play. But they're not like a couple of their really good players are gone now too. What's his name? Tucker DeVries. Like he's not there anymore. They've got a couple of new faces in the program, but like they're still playing solid ball, right? But there are other good teams in this conference, right? Bradley's always their contender, but I think a team like UNI, Northern Iowa, also has some life in this tournament too. Illinois State, I agree with you. I think they are lively in this tournament as well, even priced in a range that seems like a long shot. Like, based on the way the odds are set up, it seems like it's going to be Drake and UNI or Bradley, kind of the way that's going to shape up. But I don't think you could go wrong picking any of those three teams in this tournament, right? I think I agree with you. I think Drake is the one that would ultimately make it out, but I wouldn't fault you looking at Northern Iowa or even Bradley in this case, right? Illinois State's a good look too, but a couple of the teams are gone already. We wouldn't have endorsed betting Missouri State or who did SIU beat Missouri State, and we wouldn't have endorsed Indiana State either. I think SIU is probably done after either tonight or tomorrow, whenever the quarterfinals for this tournament are. But it's not a deep pool. Like you have teams like Evansville. I don't think Belmont's very good as compared to years past. Like they play a Alabama-esque style, it seems like, where they need to shoot the ball a lot, play really fast to kind of make up for their flaws as a team. But I don't think you could go wrong picking it for sure. One of those top three, because I can't imagine UNI or Bradley are very long priced either. Probably inside of 6 or 7 to 1.
Yeah, Bradley's at 340. Well, at the Open, they were plus 340. Northern Iowa was plus 475. And yeah, I know you like to bring up this a lot. Drake only covered 10 out of 20 conference games. They were 17-3 in conference. They only covered 10 of those games. Having said that, when they win, like they just stomp teams. And they laid some big numbers in conference play. So like take it with a grain of salt, but that is something to consider when you're looking at postseason play.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like a team that covers very well in the regular season doesn't matter as much when it comes to tournament play and the March bracket, because it's all about winning, right? Like it doesn't matter if you win by 1 or 100. Like the goal is just to win. That's the goal every night. But I would be inclined to believe that players on the team are at least aware of the expectation on like a betting market, right? It's like, oh, we're favored by 8 today. That's not a new thing. Like, yes, sports betting's legal, but like they talked about that years ago. You know what I mean? Like there has to be some awareness to that. Like I would not believe it if the players were totally naive to that. But you can kind of consider like where the public's brain is going to be at. It's like, oh, this team burned me all season. I'm not backing them. And it's like, now is a good time to, flush all that away and just look at one game at a time. So round that one out. I think, like I said, those top 3 teams between Drake, UNI, and Bradley are likely to be the 3, but there is that 4th team that is going to make it to the semis no matter what. If you like Illinois State and you've got a future on them, I think you're in a really good spot, because I think you could hedge out of that in the semifinal game. You could probably add them if you still like it. Illinois State. The other 3, probably not. Drake might not have changed all that much, but I'd have to imagine you and I and Bradley would be much shorter, especially because, there's 4 less teams you have to worry about now, or 2 less teams, soon to be 4. So, anything else in the Missouri Valley?
That's all I got.
Oh, one thing. I got a little lucky yesterday. If you are listening to this, unders rule in this tournament. I bet an over in the second game. I didn't know which over I liked, but I figured one of them was going over. I got the first one. I missed the second one. It only missed by like a handful of points, but unders rule in this tournament. It's a neutral site. It's like 70% to the under if the total is like 132 or lower. I saw that trend yesterday. So don't bet overs in this tournament. They're usually rock fights. Learn that one the hard way. Just a little tidbit for everyone at home. So, all right. Let's move on to the America East. Is it American East or America East? Because I think it's America East. It's a stupidly named conference.
It's America East. No N.
It's so dumb. Name your conference.
It should be the American East.
You would think so, or like
it should be.
We're constantly calling the Coastal Conference the Colonial Conference. Call it the Colonial. Yeah.
It's not the Coastal Conference. I don't care what you tell me. It's never.
Okay. But let's talk about geography here. When you think of Colonial, do you think of like Carolinas in
No, I think of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think of like New England.
The colonies.
Like, yeah, the Carolinas were colonies, but like they're like the afterthought colonies. Like you think of Massachusetts and Connecticut and Pennsylvania and New York and New Hampshire. And I believe the guy from New Hampshire is the one who like set up our Congress that way, like with the bicameral system of 2 houses. I think that was from. Yeah, you're like looking at me like I'm a humanities guy. I have 2 degrees from our established. I have 2 degrees from our very pristine Edgewood University now. I have 2 degrees from there. One of them was history, so I'm very well versed in all things humanities. I'm well versed in a lot of things, but I'm also a dummy. 2. You've got 2. Oh, you've got them hanging up. I think my parents have mine. I don't even know if mine's real, but I've got 2 of them.
I think we need new ones because it's university now and not college.
I don't give a fuck.
You spend $50 to get a new one. Not the point.
No, that's not happening. That's a couple bets right there. It's not happening. All right. America East. What are you thinking?
Man, this is a weird one.
I would agree with that.
Bryant is minus 150. I usually love Vermont in this tournament. This Vermont team is not normally what they are. Usually Vermont will just shoot the lights out. Bryant has been really good, actually. They're actually ranked pretty high in the KenPom metrics. Bryant lost at home to Albany in conference, and they split with Vermont on the road. This is a tournament, for what it's worth, is always played at the higher seed, so Bryant will host every single game that they are able to play in. So if it comes down to it, Vermont would head to Bryant to play in the championship game. Having said that, I don't think Vermont is like completely out of this. They have some weird losses, though. They got absolutely stomped by the 8 seed UMBC, who is just an over machine, but man, do they suck. So this first game, actually, this first game is on Saturday between Bryant and UMBC. Could be worth an overlook. Bryant's defense is solid, so maybe you get just cooked on that one because UMBC can't score, but they're going to push the pace on them. Might be an overlook spot. Other than that, though, like there's not a whole. I mean, if you really wanted to take a long shot, I would look at Albany just because they've been the most competitive with the top teams. Not a big fan of Maine, even though they're the 3 seed plus 750. I think
their draw is probably tough.
Maine starts with Lowell, and then they play Albany or Binghamton. So
that's a tough
they have a tough draw. This is actually. No, I take that back because this is a reseed tournament. So it's highest remaining seed, lowest remaining seed, and then second lowest. So
when does it reseed in the quarters?
In the semis. So they start in the quarters. So only 8 teams are in.
So you're saying the New Jersey Institute of Technology did not get the invite?
No, they did not. I mean, if all goes chalk, you would be looking at Bryant versus Albany and Vermont versus Maine. Which I know I just said I like Albany. That's a really tough draw for them. But again, you're looking at 20-1. Could be a hedge spot out if they do take game one over Binghamton, which they should.
Mhm.
I know Binghamton was frisky in a couple of games. There's not really anything that is inclined. If Vermont was more similar to what they were last year, I would say that I would be more
there's
inclined
value
to
there.
bet Vermont. I don't know if that's the case though. And at plus 230, it doesn't really leave you much room to hedge if they do just run to the finals against Bryant. At that point, you're basically like
you basically
you're-
have a
you're-
money line ticket on them. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're looking at like receiving a unit back if you were to hedge out in the finals.
Yeah, and I don't think you would. You at that point
No,
you'd
you
probably
just
let
let it
that
go.
one ride.
Yeah.
But this one, there is another thing to consider in this tournament. I don't believe it's a neutral site, so they're all home games. So
I mentioned that it's always played. It's played at the higher seed.
Oh, right. So I agree with your Vermont sentiment for sure. Like this isn't their typical Vermont team. Last year we did this show, and
I was all over them.
Yeah, but I think this is a one tournament like we nailed to a T. Because we
had Vermont and Lowell.
When it comes to betting on college basketball, would you say you're an idiot? You personally, because I am. I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I'm very dumb. But this is one we definitely got right. Like, don't worry about it. It's going to be Vermont and Lowell in the finals, and it was. And it was a really good game. Vermont ended up winning, but typically I like to look at the odds just to decide where I want to go. But this is one where I'm like, I'm not really sure if Bryant is going to end up winning this tournament, even if they're priced at a favorite. And you're laying juice to bet Bryant. A lot of these teams haven't really been there before. Like, I think the last time the Bryant was in this in a conference championship game, they were still playing in the NEC and they played Wagner. That game was awesome, by the way. I don't know if you remember Peter Kiss. That kid was such a tool, but he was so fun. But I'm not really sure what to expect out of like Maine and Albany and Bryant. This tournament has always been Vermont and Lowell, and I'm kind of gravitating towards Lowell as an outside favorite team because like they didn't really play all that well down the stretch. Like they didn't cover games. They lost games they shouldn't have lost. Things like that. So I kind of think they're lively. And then, with these teams in this pool, it's like, why would you lay juice with Bryant? Like if you think Bryant's going to win, I just wouldn't bet this tournament. But it always seems, it's kind of like the WCC, right? It's like, it's always Gonzaga and St. Mary's. It's kind of always Vermont and Lowell. And like, if you have the sentiment that it's going to go that way, like you should probably bet that. Like minus 150 on a favorite, I don't know about that. Like I think that's short enough to where you could look towards betting the field. So I'm inclined to do that. I kind of like Lowell. What are they, 7-1, 8-1?
No, 22-1.
Holy crap! Yeah, I like Lowell. Okay, yeah, I like Lowell there. Do I think that's going to happen? Not necessarily, because I do think they did take a step back, but you never know. I mean, like I felt like they're frisky enough to like be lively in this tournament. Like I think you could take a stab there.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I don't have a whole bunch else on this.
No, I mean it's the field.
It can be fun. I don't think this is a year where this conference tournament is very fun, to be honest with you.
No, probably not. Like it's probably Bryant at the end of the day. It's probably Bryant in Vermont. But what's unusual for me this year is like the other three we mentioned are definitely lively. Like Baltimore County could win a game.
Yeah, the way they play offense.
Yeah, all it takes is to get hot one game, and
they stomped Vermont in the regular season. I bet that game. Vermont was laying, I believe, 11.5, and UMBC beat them by 18. Like just
Yeah,
and ran them out of the gym. Like it was never close.
yeah, it's very volatile this season. Like even a team like Binghamton, like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're in the UMBC range where it's like they won't, shoot the lights out, but like they could slow it down enough and win. Like Binghamton's frisky for sure, especially in this conference. But
Mm-hmm.
once you get past that quarterfinal game, I feel like one of those teams will make it just because one of those teams kind of has to, like Maine and Albany, or yeah. If I were forced to pick one, spend a unit or half a unit on one of those long shots, it would be Maine or Lowell for me. But I wouldn't be surprised if this one was chalk through. But next up is the SoCon Southern Conference. There's a lot of ways to look at this tournament as well, because the typical heavy hitter in UNC Greensboro isn't even the odds-on favorite. What do you like in the SoCon?
Chattanooga. I think at plus 270, this is actually a really strong bet, despite being the odds-on and the 1 seed. They're just a really good team again. They shoot the ball extremely well. They're one of the top teams in the country in 2-point percentage, and they're in the top 50 of 3-point percentage. They're a team that always seems to have good shots, if that makes sense. Like they always have a good look. It feels like every possession. I'm a fan of this team. I'm always a Chattanooga guy. Having said that, there is a team down the list though that I think can be really frisky, and it's the Furman Paladins at plus 750. This is not the same Furman team that we saw last year that beat Virginia in the first round, but they still play that style of basketball. They like to just fire away. They play really fast, and like last year, they caught Virginia, who plays that really yucky, slow offense, and they just caught them. They shot the ball well enough, had to put pressure on Virginia, and they walked away with a win. They have one of the better players in the conference in PJ Smith, and they could make some noise. Let me look at their draw real quick. So they're in Chattanooga's bracket, so you could be looking at a hedge out spot when they face off. I'm probably looking at getting some stock in Chattanooga at plus 270.
I think what you said is definitely fair. I mean, they're really good. What are they, 23-8, 23-9, something like that? They're a good team. But them being plus money makes me feel like the field has a legitimate shot at this as well. As a legitimate shot in this tournament as well. I don't know if I'd go toward Furman just because like the name recognition thing. Yes, I'm weird. My brain works funny. I know. But if you were to ignore that, as you should, because like I said, I'm dumb. It's a good look. Samford's a good look too. I mean, they're a run and gun type team. Shoot the snot out of the ball. Eastern Tennessee is a little interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this team could slow things down enough and make it a little harder to, just roll right on through. Like I said earlier, seeing plus 270 for the odds on favorite as the 1 seed leads me to believe that this tournament is destined for a little bit of chaos. But I'm not sure how much further down I'd go, like a team like Wofford or Mercer or, one of those.
The key debts sitting at 200 to 1 doesn't intrigue you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, I think one of those 4 we mentioned, including Greensboro. Greensboro, I don't think is bad by any means, but they're just kind of on the outside looking in for this tournament. One of those 5 teams, I think, has a very legitimate chance of at least making it to the championship game. But based on all the things you said, I think Chattanooga is the way to go.
Yeah, I might get some stake in that. We'll see how things start to shake up. I try not to go super heavy on the mid-major futures, but this is
that's just a sprinkle here or there.
Piquing my interest. You want to jump to the last one? The last one is disgusting, but we might as well.
Yeah. The old Southland Conference. The Southland. I think we were talking pre-show, and McNeese is minus 550.
Minus 500, and they're hosting the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, do we have to say any more?
at the Legacy Center.
Yeah. Don't bet this conference, please. don't bet this conference. If you were silly and you wanted to make another bet, it would be Nichols or Lamar. That's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Nichols did beat McNeese. They split with him in the regular season, and they wouldn't have to play McNeese until the finals. And so you're looking at like at least a path. But even at 12-1, like there's nothing in me that would want to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this
Even
is a Sunday
Lamar as the
Monday.
2 seed.
Yeah, no, this is wrapped up. I think minus 550 is insane for a team that wasn't like complete dominant in the conference.
No, this is
play.
not the same McNeese team as last year.
Mm-mm. Well, I mean, Will Wade's still a good skipper, and like the record's there, but like they last year they ran through this conference, like completely ran through the conference, and like typically competitive team like Corpus Christi, they kind of took a step back. Nichols and Lamar, like those are the only two that have a chance, and I don't think it's a good one. Like minus 500 is staggering odds for a conference champion for a team that did not look entirely dominant in conference play the entire season. So I don't think there is too much more to add to that one. You mentioned earlier that we're going to finish up the rest of these next week, and we plan on doing so. We still need to hash out exactly what conferences we're doing, what days, because, you know, like the Big Ten and the Big West, they're a little later. Ivy League's 2-day tournament. So we'll hash out the schedule there. But before we go, you want to look at the MLB MVP futures market a little bit? See what we're thinking?
Yeah, we knew this one was going to be a little short, so I figured we'd throw this in, start the awards conversation, just get it rolling. To me, the AL is the more fun one of the two. And like when I talk about fun, like I think it was 2 years ago, you were sitting on a J-Ram ticket for MVP at like 45-1. Like that's a fun ticket to sit on. Like it's one of those things.
Oh,
like,
yeah. I think that was last year.
Was it last year? Yeah.
I think
like
so, but it's like
like I don't think he's
really
ever going to win one, which is a bummer because of how good he is. But like those are fun tickets to sit on. And with MVP, like it's not worth tying up something for 3-1. And so I never look at like the high, even like 5-1 is pushing it. And we're going to talk about a guy that's 5-1 that is like might actually be worth it. I've got a couple in the AL, and I'm going to go in order of lowest to highest odds.
Okay.
Highest to lowest, or whatever you want to say. So my first one is Yordan Alvarez at plus 900. Dude just hits the absolute cover off the ball. Unfortunately, he's kind of pigeonholed into the DH thing. And so he's not going to steal 50 bags like Ohtani did. Might throw that off, but it still intrigues me the way that he can hit, because I legitimately think that he is a top 3 hitter in all of baseball and doesn't get the credit for it. So like this could be a really fun one. Julio Rodriguez at 20-1 is one that I've had my eye on. If he doesn't suck in May, he should win an MVP at some point. Like he just has one month where he hits like 220, strikes out a ton,
40 times,
and is just horrible at the plate. And it's one of those things. Every time we get to the All-Star break, everyone's looking at him like, oh, he's so overrated. And then he goes crazy in the second half, and he's fine, and he puts together like a very like respectable season. One of these years, I think he's going to put it all together, and this could be one. That's one I'm legitimately looking towards betting. I really like that one. My long shot, my super long shot, would be Wyatt Langford at 50-1. He struggled last year, and this is a guy that I tooted the horn on, that he was the best hitter in the 2023 draft, better than Dylan Cruz, who's going to be the odds-on favorite to win NL Rookie of the Year this year. And he got passed up a couple of times, and the Rangers scooped him. And last year, he showed flashes of it, but he was really disappointing for the most part, at least from what I expected out of him. I think a lot of people expected him to come out and be like Juan Soto-esque and just dominate, and he really didn't. But I think this is going to be the coming out party. He still has rookie eligibility. Actually, no, he does not. I take that back. I did think he was going to be Rookie of the Year last year. He struggled in the in the AL. The Rookie of the Year discussion was pretty wide open, and for him to like not really be in it, I thought was kind of disappointing for what I expected. So I'm expecting a big breakout. 50-1 is pretty intriguing for a guy like that.
That is quite a long shot. 50-1 ticket would be nice, and that's something that you could like wait on too.
Oh
A
yeah.
couple weeks go by, and it's 75-1. Oh, it's 100-1. So timing is a big thing in the futures market as well. Buying the bottoms and getting things the longest price you can is always a good thing. I really like that Jordan Alvarez pick because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think he definitely a power hitter, but I mean he hits for average too. He sprays the ball everywhere, extra base hit machine. He just doesn't provide a ton of value defensively or on the base paths. However, I do think that last year with Shohei Ohtani winning the MVP as primarily a DH because of his injury thing, he's not like a DH player. We're not suggesting that at all, but perhaps he opened the door for that. Making it possible to where a DH doesn't need to have like staggering offensive numbers to be able to win an MVP. Not saying Shohei didn't. I mean, he hit 50 home runs, did he not?
Yeah, and he's swiped
Yeah,
50.
yeah. So it's like not. Alvarez would have to be insanely good being a DH, but I think like the team plays a lot in that too. Like the Astros made the playoffs down the stretch. We talked about we were waiting for the Astro and we were waiting for the Astros when we were doing all of our weekly baseball stuff last season in a long forgotten age, but they weren't the same team, right? Like they weren't anywhere near as good as they normally are. They just happened to put it together at the right time in a bad division. But I think like he has a chance. Like he's like you said, a top hitter in the MLB in any, if not all, metrics. It's just you only are getting a third or half of the equation with him not being in the field or being not much of a base runner. 9-1 though, I think that is a good price for a really, really good hitter. Somebody else I'm looking at myself, I like Corey Seager. Do you have odds on Corey Seager?
12-1.
I think Corey Seager is really due for a bounce back season. He's one of the best players in baseball. Like that World Series run, he's a World Series MVP, right? He's got some life there. So I think he's due for a good bounce back season. Like
I was on this train coming into last year, and he was still a little bit banged up at times last year. For him, it's staying healthy. Like if he stays healthy through 162, he's gonna be in the conversation. And the issue I have with Jordan is that 3 of the best players in the American League are shortstops between Bobby Witt, Corey Seager, and Gunnar Henderson. So it's like if you don't play defense, it's really hard to compete with those guys because they're all incredible
very
defenders
good
too.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, they're just playing defense. It's not like the Lindor conversation where like Lindor is a good defender, don't get me wrong, but like he wasn't hitting that way compared to where Bobby Witt, Gunnar, and Corey Seager can all mash and play really, really good defense.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a different thing.
Yeah, and to be clear, you're not saying Frankie Lindor was bad last season because like
no, he was awesome.
Pretty much revitalized his career because like that is one guy. Lindor is one guy the entire baseball world felt kind of bad for. Like he deserved that big contract he got, and then he just didn't play into that whatsoever. And like that's a guy that I felt like everybody was kind of rooting for that guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I love Jose Ramirez too. I bet on him every year, and he's
just never gonna win. And it sucks because he's so good. He's probably the most underrated or under talked about superstar in baseball. I think he's got 7 straight seasons or 8 straight seasons of 2020 or 25. I mean, he's just a freak. Like you just know exactly what you're going to get out of him, and it's that. Like it's near 30 home runs, it's near 30 stolen bases. He's going to hit close to 300. Like he's a machine.
Yeah, and he plays in a unfriendly hitter's park.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So those home run numbers would be a lot higher if you played at say Yankee Stadium or literally almost anywhere else. I'm trying to scour my brain real quick. I mean, I think Aaron Judge is going to be in the conversation as well, just because he kind of left a sour taste in everybody's mouth.
He's the odds-on favorite, plus 300.
It's hard to not keep that in the back of your mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we mentioned Bobby Witt Jr. He's probably too short for my taste. betting wise.
325. Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
it's
As
too
much
short.
and he's a guy that literally would have won the MVP in any other year, probably ever in baseball history. And he just happened to run into this wagon that was Aaron Judge last year, and so he could be a fun one just because he is a really fun player to watch. But when you're tying up money in the futures market, like plus 325 is a little bit tight for a full season future.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think real quick about anyone else that could potentially be there, and
Vladdy and Trout dude. This could be a really Mike Trout.
It could
AL MVP could be a really fun ticket. I mean, obviously, it's just 100% dependent on him being healthy, but he's never shown us a bad product on the field. Like anytime he's on the field, he's a superstar. It's just how often is he on the field is going to be the real problem.
Yeah, 2 for 3, 0 for 4, 2 for 3, 0 for 4, 2 for 3, 0 for 4. Like that's what it is. Like 2 for 7 every 2 days. That could
be a really fun one.
Yeah,
I might look at that. Vladdy is an interesting one just because like last year he just hit the absolute cover off the ball, but it's the same conversation. Like as a first baseman, you really, really got to hit. And I don't think he's going to out hit Jordan as a DH, and he plays first and he might play a little bit of third this year, but I don't think that's going to really move the needle for him, but he could be a fun one to sit on. Definitely looking at J-Rod for the 20-1 range.
Yeah. Vladdy being in a contract here, I think that might be a little bit of a motivating factor for him. Want to move on to the NL?
Yeah, let's jump right in. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is the odds-on favorite, plus 160.
Here's do that.
No, do not do that. It's ridiculous, especially because if he pitches this year, it's basically just done. Like, just especially because he's coming over from and we talk about voter fatigue a lot. He hasn't hit voter fatigue in the NL yet. He had it in the AL, which is because like technically he should probably just win it every year when he pitches. Like that's just
you could make that argument for everyone, right? Like Mike Trout should win MVP most years, right? But like he's the best player in baseball.
Yeah, he should win it every year. Like, if he's pitching this year, I think it's like as good as done. But what's really going to be interesting is Juan Soto is 6-1. He's never won one in his career. He was kind of, I mean, I want to say he was knocking on the door last year.
He was in the conversation,
but he had Witt and Judge in front of him. So it was like, I mean, and the Mets in theory should be solid this year. I know they're dealing with some injuries, so who knows? That's a team I'm looking to fade this year in the futures market is the Mets.
Just kind of too much.
Yeah, I think they could be a repeat of the Yankees last year. But where I'm looking is your guy, and I know you agreed with me when we first talked about this, is Kyle Tucker at 16-1. He's one of the best players in baseball, and he dealt with a ton of injury last year. He was a guy that I actually took a couple of prop futures on in the RBI department, and he got hurt, and he would have crushed it if he played all year because he still got kind of close to it. But at 16-1, I mean, obviously you got to beat out Ellie De La Cruz, which he's just like an explosive player. But if he keeps doing the thing where he strikes out 250 times every year, he's not going to win it.
I'm not expecting that to change anytime soon, nor should you. And he's I don't improving in the field, but I don't know if this is true or not. But in my brain, he's a liability on defense. Not sure if it's the case or not.
He is, but he isn't. If that makes sense. So he actually, like when you get into the nerdy stuff, it comes out that he grades really well, but he makes the most errors of any shortstop in baseball. But it's because he has the most range. So like he gets to more balls than anybody else.
More opportunities.
And because of that, he's making more errors because he's getting to balls that like nobody else in the league can get to. And so that play is really difficult because he's in the top 0.1% or whatever you want to call it. So he does make more errors, which errors cost you runs, errors are outs. But when you look at those compared to other shortstops, those are just base hits. So it's like it's kind of a wash.
I get what you're saying. Yes.
But yes, I do agree with you. Yeah, he makes a lot of errors. He strikes out a ton.
It's more the hitting thing. Yeah. Like if he puts the ball in play, it's incredible. Like anything can happen. Like he'll turn a routine single into a triple if you're not fast enough playing the ball. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect anything out of there. Love Kyle Tucker. And I guess my whole synopsis with this NL MVP conversation is if you don't think Shohei Ohtani is going to win MVP again, I don't see why he wouldn't. It's not like the other major sports where it's like, oh, you typically don't see that repeat MVP. I feel like baseball is kind of the exception to that. The NL is kind of open. Like, if you don't think Shohei is going to win, I think you have a lot of areas to go to because there's a lot of talented players in the NL. There's a lot of talented players in the AL, but I think the AL is a little more wide open in general just because you don't have Shohei Ohtani. Aaron Judge is there, but like Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt being a toss up is kind of indicative. But like if you exclude Shohei, I think there are a lot of cases you could make for who you like in the NL.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Mookie Betts is obviously always going to be an option. Bryce Harper is always going to be an option. You still have Lindor. You have Ronald Acuna coming off of the ACL tear, which I believe last time he came off an ACL tear, he won MVP. So could be looking at that. Ketel Marte, who dealt with some injuries last year, is one of the best players in the NL. You have Freddie Freeman. Even a guy like Jackson Chourio could be a really fun one to sit on. But
long shot one.
a long shot. Actually, not as long as you think it would. It's actually less than I thought it was. It's at 35. He has the same odds as Freddie Freeman.
That's surprising.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. But Kyle Tucker is one I'm actually really looking at. He was actually a guy I was looking to back in the MVP race last year in the AL.
I was too.
But with Judge and Soto and Witt and Gunnar Henderson, it was kind of one of those things. It was like, it's really not worth it. And he got hurt really early on. So it just ended up being like, I couldn't get that ticket in because he was hurt for most of the season. So he's a guy I'm definitely looking to back. Chicago can be hitter friendly as long as that wind is blowing out. So, and he's got more games in the Great American Small Park being able to play Cincinnati.
That's true.
I'm kind of in on the Kyle Tucker train. As much as I think like if Shohei pitches, this is as good as done. Kyle Tucker could be a really, really fun ticket to sit on all year.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just trying to peruse the divisions because I had a few names written down, but like nothing like, oh, we found like a needle in a haystack kind of thing. Yeah. I agree with you. I would look away from the Mets. Like I feel like after last year, like the hype might be a little too great to overcome because they kind of loaded up again too, right? We're planning on doing some written pieces for division previews, and I just looked at the NL Central this morning. Like the only guy I like in that division is Kyle Tucker. Really, the Cardinals are like not there. Pirates, Reds, Brewers, and then out west you have literally everyone on the Dodgers. Rockies should be relegated. Ketel Marte is interesting. I kind of like your analysis on that. I don't know if I'd play that one. What's he priced at? Got to be like 20, 30 to 1.
35 to 1, I believe.
Yeah, that would be a fun ticket too.
Yeah.
Giants.
No, I wouldn't play Adames. And
no, I don't think Willie Adames is good. Sorry. He's a Brewer, so I don't like him. Yeah, he's not that good. I just don't like him because he played for the Brewers. He'll probably be my favorite player this year. What's this in the NL West? D-backs, Dodgers, Giants, Rockies. Who am I missing on the West? Having a brain fart.
Padres. Tatis.
About like Tatis, yeah. I was going to say Tatis. I feel like it's hard to get those offensive numbers playing there. It's a very pitcher-friendly park. Dan Marine layer. Yeah, so I feel like it's hard to put the necessary output there. And I feel like their whole defensive situation is so unique. It's like hard to hone in on like where you're like providing the most value playing defense when you're kind of all over the place. Maybe I'm off base on that, but like he'll play outfield, he'll play shortstop. Like I feel like it's kind of hard to narrow down like your defensive impact when you're kind of jumping around all the time. I could be wrong, but
no, I'm with you there. Yeah. It's also like with all the offseason drama that happened in San Diego, it's not really a team I'm looking to back either. It's actually a team I'm looking to fade. So as much as I think Tatis can be in the conversation, I don't really want to get involved there.
Yeah, I think we're just a Cubs team. We're a Cubs podcast now. Yeah.
I know I have to be. I don't even like rooting for them, but I love Kyle Tucker, so it's just gonna have to be that way.
Yeah, I agree. Kyle Tucker is the man, and he's wearing.
I was literally looking at backing him last year for it. I was saying it preseason, like this could be MVP season. I think it's this year.
Yeah, he's big time.
Even though he has to compete with Soto,
I just feel like Soto performs in a way that's like overlooked by like traditional writers. You know what I mean? Like I feel like baseball when it comes to MVP, it's like so stat driven. Like in a traditional way yet. Like the OBP, I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just saying like I think you kind of need to stuff the stat sheet in order to be really in the conversation. Like the OBP doesn't necessarily do it all the time. I could be wrong, but
I mean, I think he would have won it had he been in the NL last year. I think he would have gotten it over.
I think so too, especially playing at Yankee Stadium. But do you get what I'm saying? It's like I feel like Juan Soto. Like you have people online talk about how Juan Soto isn't that good because like he only hit like 280, even though he's on base 42% of the time.
He's got the best on base since like Bonds.
It's like 7th all time, and he's
actually I believe he's in the like top 15 for walks.
Career. And just walks. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's way up there. He's got like 700 and something walks in his first 7 seasons, and one of those 7 seasons is the COVID season. So like you're looking at 6.5 seasons.
He's got almost 800.
Yeah, and he's got almost 800 walks already. It's a freak.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like I feel like like last year. I mean, how many home runs did he have last year? Low 30s,
30 something,
or was it more than that?
No, I believe it was in the 30s. He had 41. 41.
41. Okay, that was more.
41 and 109 RBIs.
Okay, that's more than I thought. So like maybe last year was a bad example, but like Juan Soto has been one of the best hitters in baseball for 7 years just by getting on base. But I feel like people are gravitated towards the traditional average home runs RBI. And it's just different with him because he's literally on base half the time.
He hit under 270 once in his career, and it was 2022, and he still had above a 400 on base.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's like he's automatically discounted from that conversation, even though it's like you did your job 40% of the time.
It's crazy. Yeah, he's insanely good. That could actually be a decent one to look at 6-1. As much as I don't like taking those smaller odds,
I think that one has life.
It's just, Soto and Tucker is where I'd look there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else you want to talk about? We ended up actually having a longer show, just, going through the extra stuff.
No, that's all I got. Follow the Twitter, subscribe to the Substack and the YouTube, and we'll be back with college basketball stuff next week.